They weren't ready for this today. Oh yeah. Y'all know what time it is. You heard Freddie. Welcome to prime time, bitch. And we are back. Oh yeah, y'all. We are back. It's your boy, Walterdoom. And we are back for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. Where this is the horror podcast where we talk about any and everything related to the genre. I talk about everything from streaming that you can watch. For all you horror fanatics out there, horror noobs, or people that just don't know what to watch, dealing with horror, or maybe you might be afraid of something and you don't know whether you want to watch it or not because it might be too scary for you. Well, I am that guy to kind of help you out. So, yeah, we're back for another episode. We have like a very topic heavy episode today, but not a 2-hour long episode. At least I'm gonna try to not go for a 2-hour long episode. Last week I said I wasn't gonna go for a 2-hour long episode, and look what happened to us. We went for like a 2.5 hour episode. I mean, yeah, but what we're gonna talk about today, you guys, we're gonna talk about VHS today in our latest franchise talk for this week. And we are going to stack VHS against all the other horror movies that we talked about in previous franchise talk. What we also have is my thoughts about all the movies that I watched during the month of August. And I'm going to tell you guys what were some of the best movies that I've watched and some of the worst movies that I've watched and why. Man, I can't wait to talk about that because I got a lot to say about that. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead, take a quick break, cue those applause for me, and we will start the show. Oh yeah, you guys. Welcome back to another episode. You know, we got your boy Walterdoom, man in the sounds. Your boy Walterdoom, making the music. We got Walterdoom in the corner, checking out all the bitches. And your boy Walterdoom as your host. Yeah, I mean, if anything, gonna make it seem like a Superman made show. But yeah, how you guys doing today? I'm doing well. If you guys are wondering, pretty sure you're not. Oh man, but yeah, I'm doing pretty well, you guys. I mean, I usually say I'm going through things, but not really going through things this time. You know, going through things. Took a minor pause. Nah, but I'm just super happy, you guys. I'm just super happy, you know. I'm managing to get like a good little workout regimen going on, what have you, that I'm trying out. Nothing too crazy or anything like that. Just a little something to kind of keep healthy and all that, keep fit and what have you. I've been watching plenty of scary movies for you guys, so I got a lot of stuff to talk about. Trying to map out all my content, you know, trying to stay like at least 3 episodes ahead, you know, as far as like outlining what I'm going to talk about next. And I've been kind of really consistent on that. I'm also happy that I'm getting like, you know, it's still small, but very decent views, in my opinion, for something that no one knows about. I mean, I'm happy to just see like at least like 5 of you guys watching on a consistent basis, and I'm just getting like 5 views. I mean, higher is good. I mean, like I said before, I'm not trying to be YouTube famous or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? This is more of a hobby thing for me. You know, it's something that's just for fun. I mean, if it turns into anything else, I mean, hey, why not? You know what I'm saying? But one thing that I really am tripping about, which is all the craze for the past couple of weeks now, is this motherfucking chicken sandwich craze.
What are you, fucking nuts?
I know, Chucky, it is pretty fucking nuts. I mean, what the hell? I have never seen such pandemonium since the Kanye and 50 Cent rave about whose album was going to sell more. It's so crazy. I mean, for some of you guys that are living under a rock, I mean, Popeyes just released their latest chicken sandwich, or their first ever chicken sandwich. And it's been selling out lately. It's a chicken sandwich that everybody is just lining up for, going crazy about. I mean, I'm not a big Popeyes person. I've ate there quite a few times. I usually like getting their shrimp from there. Their fries slam though. Not slam, but they slap. They slap. The hell slap. Where the hell did I get slam from? I don't even know. Like, but they slap. They really do slap. And for you guys that don't know what slap is, I mean, it's very good. But yeah, usually I just like getting the shrimp there. I wouldn't say I eat there all the time, or I wouldn't advise anybody to eat there all the time because, you know, diabetes is a real thing. High cholesterol is a real thing also. But the food is definitely good out there. But I have not tried this chicken sandwich shit at all. I'm thinking about trying it. I'm actually thinking about trying it. But I don't know if I really want to sit in those long lines just to hear that this shit is sold out. You get me? It makes no sense. It's just a waste of time. And I hate wasting time. Especially with people that take forever. Like, people who don't know what they're doing, or just like, they're indecisive. And you know what's even more annoying is those people that are indecisive. They make it seem like it's your fault just because you're kind of like waiting on them. Like, what the hell? Like, no, like, you're the one lagging it. What the hell? But yeah, I hate that. I hate wasting my time on shit that is not a for sure thing. I really don't like that. Like, why am I wasting my time on this bullshit? Like, come on now. I have better things to do. Like, the amount of time that I waste standing in this damn line, and I'm pretty sure this line is going on for like an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours long. I got a friend that I saw on Snapchat. She was standing in line for this damn sandwich with her crew. Now, me personally, I'm not built around hype. I don't give a fuck about what's trending, what's not trending. I could care less. I mean, there's better things to worry about out there besides what's trending now. Because we all know what's trending is going to eventually die out. Eventually. But I mean, hey, if you want to be somebody Instagram famous or YouTube famous, you gotta like jump on those trends. But yeah, I'm not anybody that's like too hyped about jumping on trends. Now, I am curious and I do kind of want to make a video of it, but it's not to be like jumping on a trend or anything like that, or trying to gather up views or anything like that, but just pure curiosity, you know what I'm saying? And kind of like sharing the experience, just like how I shared my experience about like what was in my bag. I shared my experience about what I got at Amoeba that specific day. But yeah, I just can't picture myself in that line. But she sat in there for like a fucking hour and actually managed to get a chicken sandwich out of that shit. Mind you, this is a $3.99 chicken sandwich that people are standing in line for an hour for. What in the actual hell? Like, why? But people are standing in line for this thing. And honestly speaking, I mean, this is big marketing for Popeyes, who, in my opinion, has probably been underrated for the longest. Yeah, they got their chicken sandwich, and they're getting into this whole beef with Chick-fil-A. And you got these Chick-fil-A maniacs out here trying to throw dirt on the whole Popeyes experience or what have you. And you just got these Popeye dick riders who are just like saying, oh, well, Popeyes is way better than Chick-fil-A. I mean, I don't know. It's almost turned into a white and black thing, which is so retarded to me. I mean, it's part of my language about using that word, but I mean, it's really dumb. It's just, it doesn't make sense. It's almost ass backwards. I mean, why can't we just all just say, hey, I prefer this place over that place, and just let it be? You know, it's kind of like with the whole people who like In and Out. I don't know how many of you guys are from California and that are listening to this, but out here in California, it's supposed to be the burger place or the burger joint for In and Out. Like, it's the state of In and Out. A lot of people from California would tell you a real California burger is In and Out. I don't believe that shit at all. I've had an In and Out burger, and In and Out is shit. It's pure shit to me. And it's always been shit to me. I tried In and Out many times. Many fucking times. There is not any way, shape, or fashion you can convince me In and Out is the best burger joint in California and should be the representation of California. I feel like if In and Out is the representation of California burgers, we're aiming too damn low. That's my opinion. I'm sorry for anybody that's offended. Well, sorry, not sorry, actually, because it's my opinion. I mean, you guys have your own opinion. You know, like for some of you guys that probably heard the franchise talk when I was talking about Jason, I'm pretty sure some of you guys were like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? He's fucking insane. Jason is like the best fucking thing that has came along in slasher films. He's the reason why slasher films are the reason slasher films exist. But there are other people that do exist, like Michael Myers, Texas Chainsaw. I'm just saying, like, we can't just dick ride on something just because everybody is going to it. And maybe this whole little commentary right now probably would get a lot of people not wanting to listen to more of me, but I'm just being honest. I can't lie to you guys. And that's one thing I can't fake, is just being fake. So yeah, I mean, I never really cared for In and Out, and I really don't give a fuck about this whole chicken sandwich craze. Like, what the hell, bro? But am I gonna go and try and like try this motherfucking chicken sandwich just to see what it tastes like? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I am definitely gonna try it out. I'm gonna pick up my Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich if I manage to pick up this Popeye's chicken sandwich, and I will give them both a taste test just to see who is truly better. That's just my thoughts on that. But in other things to talk about right now, we're going to talk about Hilary Duff for a second. So you guys know in the last podcast, I kind of promised you guys that I was going to watch The Haunting of Sharon Tate again. Just because of how bad it was. And for the specific fact that there was a couple of things that I noticed. You guys know that I noticed how terrible the story was. That was one. Two is what I noticed was the lack of cussing that she did. And I was wondering, did she even cuss? Now, after I was done editing this episode, I remembered, I shouldn't say noticed, but I remembered that she actually did say a cuss word. She actually said fuck in the movie. And when she said fuck was when her and all her friends, they were being threatened by Charlie's little family who were trying to kill them. And she was trying to alter the whole premonition that was happening. So if you guys seen the movie, you guys know that the only guy that's only there with the two girls, which in my memory, I could have sworn there was like 3 girls that were in that whole incident. But I mean, hey, I'm not going to argue about accuracy. you know. But the one guy that was there who was threatening them, you know, he said that he was the devil. So in the alter universe where like did not make anything seem like it made sense after that. Yeah, it did not make anything make sense. She told him after he asked, does she know who he is? She said, you're the motherfucking devil. That part I do remember. She actually said, funny enough, she said one more cuss word after that. Well, she actually said one more fuck, I should say. And she said fuck when she killed that same guy later on in the movie when they were trying to stop these people from killing them. So when she see the guy, he's pretty much like beaten, bruised, and he's kind of crawling, what have you. She sees him, takes his gun, looks him dead in his eye, and she yells, fuck you, with so much passion. By the way, I was actually like, damn, she said fuck twice. Oh my gosh, she said fuck twice. Let's welcome to the world, Freddie. Yeah, man. I was actually counting, and by my count, like I said, she only had 2 F-bombs and 1 shit. I can't remember what the shit was, but it was definitely like, it was kind of, it was whatever. I was going to say it was eye-opening, but it wasn't really that eye-opening at all. I mean, it was like that one kid that you always see that kind of watches their mouth all the time, and then all of a sudden they say a cuss word and you're like, oh shit, I didn't know those words come out of your mouth. Oh man. But the thing is that I could really say about this movie that on my second watch, which by the way did not even like help me like this movie even more than what it was before, but for the simple fact that it was much worse the second time around, I gotta say. And when I was really paying attention to this movie, oh my god, this was like the worst thing that could happen. Is like when you're really paying attention to a horrible movie, you're really paying attention to like all the terribleness about this movie. I mean, for one, why did the movie start off with all the death scenes and all the movie clips or like television excerpts and interviews and all that in the beginning of the movie? That seemed like it was something that would be more placed for like the ending of the movie, in my opinion. If I was like editing this film, I mean, could we really like say part of this movie on why it was bad was poor editing also? Because I always brought it down to acting and directing, but can we also bring it down to poor editing also? Because I feel like editing should be put responsible for some of this, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure it's the director who wants to see these scenes appear in that kind of order. So yeah, seeing just like the deaths and everybody is just dead and seeing those little clips and what have you, it just felt like I'm looking at the end of the movie and I feel like it should have been mainly for the end, not for the beginning. And same thing could be said for like when we actually see the gruesome deaths of Sharon and all her friends. That should have been more of an ending. Like if this movie was trying to stick to the facts, or if it was trying to recreate the events that happened, it should have been part of the end. Like why are all the deaths played in the middle of the movie? It doesn't make sense to me. Like I didn't get that at all. I mean, I get the fact that they were trying to create this whole fantasy world of a what if Sharon fought back. I get that. But it's like, to me, I felt like I was watching Inception or X-Men or something like that. I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. I don't get why that was even a thing. Another thing that was so weird is that, yeah, we had Charlie, but we never really got to see Charlie that much. And it's so weird that they were using him as more of a ghost-like figure in the movie. And I get that this is supposed to be a horror movie specifically. And once again, that this was supposed to be a reimagining, but more of a horror type movie. So calling it the Haunting of Sharon Tate, you get somebody that's a ghost. But it seems so weird that they treated Charlie Manson as like just this figure who just possibly doesn't even exist. And that the people in his family are the only ones who really do exist. And they're the ones that are committing the crime. I mean, we all know that Charlie Manson kind of forced his people to commit crimes. But at the same time, he was a real figure. Like, he was somebody who was really controlling the situation. But for them, I mean, in this movie, they just treated him like he was just a ghost. And it just seemed very weird that they just treated him more as like an apparition who is like not really there, but his spirit is kind of like causing all these events to happen. I would have to say, though, right now, I didn't even write this down. The one thing that they did do correct, for the simple fact that they tried to stay consistent, and I'll give them props on staying consistent and not really going outside of the characters that they were showing us. Because this movie could have been a lot more terrible if they were trying to focus on some of the outside characters like Charlie and his family and just trying to like help establish them as like, I guess, characters or whatever in the movie, when really they're just like demons and ghosts in this film. I can't believe I'm calling them ghosts when they're really not ghosts at all. Not only was the fact that they were treating the people as like ghosts and what have you, but some of the dialogue was just very cringy at the most. And the one line I could really say that was cringy was the scene where they're having breakfast, and this is after Sharon pretty much has that nightmare of everyone getting killed. She sees like a figure in her refrigerator. She pretty much sees like a dead animal in the fridge, and she's kind of confronting her friends about what she sees. She ends up seeing nothing. Turns out there was nothing in there. They get into a little spat about like, her well-being and her sanity. And the scene ends up ending with her saying like they're trying to call her crazy, and that after she kind of calls them out about them trying to call her crazy, she tells them like, I'll show you crazy. Now, to me, when she said, I'll show you crazy, it had to have been the most cringiest line ever to me. I was just like, I don't know about that line, Chief. But, yeah, she tried to use that line, and it was just like, oh my God, that was so cringy. I thought it was cringy to me. It just seemed like a line that shouldn't be there. It seemed like one of those lines that we see like in a low budget TV show. It felt like where those low budget TV shows, they have like a lot of those cringy lines, but it only works for them because they're so small and they're supposed to be cringy. This movie kind of tries to command some type of seriousness, which it ends up losing anyway, just because of how unfocused it seemed like it was. Not to mention that the music in the film, there were scenes where like it should have been music playing to kind of create tension, because music kind of always orchestrates some type of emotion. I felt there were scenes that when we were watching did not actually command it. especially like the scene that I'm talking about right now. It definitely needed some music to kind of command the scene. And I mean, maybe it would have made it even more cringy if music was there. But at the same time, it was even more cringy without it. I don't know. I mean, I felt like I was looking at the most low budget, cringy, and just like not really well put together movie possible. But it wasn't just like all the stuff like with the music and the cringy lines, but also costumes. I mean, one thing that I did notice about the characters, they wore the same costumes throughout the whole movie. And my thought was like, why didn't they change clothes? That was actually a thought to me. And I'm telling you, when you watch a terrible movie twice, you start picking up those little things. You start nitpicking at stuff that you shouldn't really be taking too much thought sometimes into. But this movie actually caused me to go into that mode. And I was just like, why didn't they change clothes for the people that are doing the killings? I mean, they look like they only have a change of clothes for like Hilary Duff and all the surrounding characters, but they don't really change Charlie Manson's clothes. They don't change like the clothes of people in his family. Now, maybe they are like on that hippie shit and, you know, they don't believe in baths or a change of clothes. I mean, if you want to think like a stereotypical hippie. But to me, I was just wondering like, wow, they really did not take too much thought into like maybe these people would wanted to change clothes. Maybe these people would have wore something different when they went on this killing spree. Now maybe I'm wrong about it and maybe they did wear the same clothes, but I mean, who knows? I just thought it was weird that those characters were wearing the same shit throughout the film, really. I didn't get it at all, but honestly, watching this movie again, just to kind of count up how many times Hilary Duff actually cussed in the movie, it was exhausting. Because honestly, bro, I was about to watch The Train to Busan before I realized I had to watch this shit again. I was like, all right, let me go to Netflix. I'm trying to watch The Train to Busan, but I still ended up watching Train to Busan anyway. But I just had to get through the bullshit with this movie first. Oh man, I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how this movie won the 3 awards that it did. It's insane to me, but yeah. If you guys want to watch The Haunting of Sharon Tate, it is on Amazon Prime. Oh man. Alright guys, so before we jump into the franchise talk, there's one more thing I want to talk about before we get into that. Robert Englund, he had a panel at Monster Mania, I think this August of 17th, and he was pretty much on a panel just talking about himself, really. I mean, and not in a narcissistic way either. He was just pretty much reflecting on his career, basically. And he was giving a lot of humble opinions, or humble statements, I should say. I mean, he gave a lot of praise to Wes Craven and his directing and writing abilities. He also gave a lot of respect to the editors that really made his movies, and just movies in general, what they are. He also talked about how he met his wife, Nancy, who was his set locator or set designer, whichever. I forget which one she was. But he talked about a little funny story which kind of stuck with me, about how he kissed her in the alley and he told her that he fell in love with her for the last time or some shit like that. And she kind of had like a little sly comment about getting his shit together. It was very funny. He talked about his run-in with Andrew Dice Clay, who ended up bumping into his car and kind of blame him for it. That part was so funny. He talked about his experience with the Goldbergs, which was also good. I didn't watch that episode, by the way. I wanted to watch it, but I never got around to seeing it. I mean, I kind of really don't watch regular TV like that anymore. I really can't remember the last time I actually sat down and watched a TV show that wasn't on stream. Now, if it's a sporting event, that's different. That's really different. But as far as like television, I really can't remember the last time I actually watched a television show being scheduled. I haven't really watched TV like that. I really don't watch much TV, I should say. Just for the simple fact that I'm more focused on creating content for here, so I watch more scary movies than anything. But even if I wasn't doing this shit anyway, I'll still be watching a lot of scary movies. Maybe not in the rate that I'm watching them now, but I'll still be watching them. I feel like ever since I started this channel, I've been kind of like pushing myself to watch more scary movies and kind of like watching, like I told you guys before, a lot of like the classic movies that I haven't seen before. I'm in groups where they talk about certain scary movies and I'm just sitting there like, fuck, I need to see this movie so I can have my opinion about it because I want to join in on the conversation. But the most important thing that Freddie talked about in his panel, since we're coming back to the topic, was Kevin Bacon playing as Freddy Krueger. Now, a lot of you guys who are probably keeping up with the horror news, Freddie came out during this panel and said that he felt like Kevin Bacon would play a really good Freddy Krueger, and he's actually being rumored to play Krueger in a reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, it hasn't really been confirmed by anybody just yet. Maybe if I look at some news, I don't know, maybe it has been confirmed, but from what I've known, there hasn't been no confirmation of Kevin Bacon playing Freddy Krueger at all just yet. But Robert Englund kind of gave a synopsis of what the studios might be trying to do. So what he talked about was that it would be good if the studios kind of remade Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. If you guys see Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, I personally did not care for it. I actually thought that movie really went outside of what the first Nightmare on Elm Street was doing. And it just didn't make sense to me. I mean, because when you come back from Part 1 to Part 2 and then Part 3, you realize Part 1 and Part 3 have more continuity going on than Part 2. Part 2 feels like that little outside kid that shouldn't even be there. Like, why is this even a movie? But he feels like Part 2 should be remade and it could be taken advantage of the latest technology to kind of bring a better vision and movie to it. Not only that, it would be nice to have like Freddy terrorize a bisexual kid in the film, I guess, to kind of like bring a more current type of child in the film. I guess like someone who has like a curious sexuality, not necessarily just like demonizing the kid just because they're bi or anything like that, but just more of like having a different representation in the film. And I kind of agree with him. I mean, because sometimes we do get kind of like a small window of representation in certain films. And it would be kind of good to see that, you know, more of an outside, you know, more a different person, not outside, but more of a different person to be represented in the film, because I can't think of a movie where there was a bisexual hero or anything like that, in my opinion. I mean, we have had like black heroes in horror movies, you know, like Chris in Get Out, the one guy in Nightmare on Elm Street, just to name a couple. I know some guys are probably like, the one guy in Nightmare on Elm Street, you don't know his fucking name? No, I don't know his fucking name, so get off my case. But and the sad part about it, that's my favorite movie, by the way. Well, it's not my all-time favorite movie, but it's one of my favorite horror movies. But yeah, still, get off my fucking case. But it would be kind of good to see like a different representation in a film where this type of person is the hero in the movie, you know? He also talked... Wow. That was nice. Well, that was nice, you guys. That was my alarm going off. I forgot that I had that shit set. Oh, man. But anyway, moving forward, before we have any more interruptions, he talked about what else the industry could do with like the other Nightmare on Elm Street movies. He kind of hinted towards like maybe they should do like 7 or 8 new ones, which is why he wants to see Kevin Bacon do these movies, because he's much younger than England, by the way. I mean, he's not that young. He's not really a kid like that, but he's young enough to where he could play Krueger for like 7 or 8 movies. He would want to see like 7 or 8 movies where like Kevin Bacon, or not Kevin Bacon, but Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 and 4, they could be remade into one movie, and they could also be more technologically advanced and what have you, and just kind of like reimagine the story a little bit better than what it was back then. Because in my opinion, I mean, I like Part 3. 3 was good. 4, it was still good, but I wouldn't say it was better than 3. I think 3 was starting to do more of like comedic Freddy than like previous films. I mean, because I think that's when we really got more of the wisecracks and the one-liners in the movies. But I mean, again, they were definitely funny, and you know, it's always funny to hear Freddy call somebody a bitch. I can't remember what my favorite line was from Part 4 though. Was well, I know that's the same film where he talked about soul food and Dan was dreaming and driving and all that. So yeah, Part 4 was definitely a good film in its own right. But Part 2, I agree with him that Part 2 probably does need to be remade, rebooted, any way possible. I mean, I really did like Robert Englund's panel. I mean, I wish I was there, like, just to hear all the stuff he was talking about and maybe just take a picture with him. Because the guy was funny. He definitely had a funny panel. You guys should check it out if you have a chance. If I don't link it, all you just gotta type is Robert Englund panel at Monster Mania 43, I believe. And it's very funny. I mean, it's definitely worth listening to. I know it was kind of annoying with some of the background noises, like how it is for here. But, you know, this is the ghetto podcast show, you know, where you can hear all the bullshit. Oh, man. But yeah, I'm excited to see. I mean, if it's true about Kevin Bacon being Freddy, I mean, I don't know how to feel about that. Because I am one of those people that think, like, no one else could play Freddy Krueger better than Robert Englund. I mean, we had a new Freddy Krueger in the movie, and he said it himself, like, they shouldn't even make or remake Part 1. They shouldn't reboot it in any type of way possible. because we already had that shit. And it was a tremendous fail. He didn't say it in those words, but he was kind of hinting towards that. But he did talk about just like going from like 2 and all the rest of them and just reboot those and remake them in any way possible and make it interesting with like everything that's happening currently in the world. So yeah, I kind of agree with him on that. But as far as Kevin Bacon goes, I mean, I don't know, man. I haven't seen too many Kevin Bacon movies, to be honest. I mean, I haven't watched too many movies with him in it. So I really can't say whether I want him to be Freddy or not, you know? But I'm having a hard time picturing Kevin Bacon being Freddy Krueger. I don't know. And I really don't see Kevin Bacon as a funny guy like that. I don't know, man. I mean, if you guys think Kevin Bacon should be Freddy, I mean, go ahead and comment whether you think he should be Freddy or not. I'm open to comments. But with that being said, I am going to go ahead and take a break, you guys. And when I come back, we are going to have our franchise talk about VHS. So be right back. Alright guys, and we are back. And we are back with our franchise talk. And in the franchise talk, we talk about a certain franchise and we pit them against other franchises that are just alike as them. And what happens at the end is that we rank them in the end. Now, I just started the ranking system for these franchises. So right now I'm just throwing imaginary numbers out there. Or not imaginary numbers, but imaginary rankings until I really get this ranking system down solid. And we are probably going to revisit some of the rankings of these movies and see if whether after giving a solid, review for them, are they going to move up or down? We'll see. But the next franchise that I want to talk about kind of with you guys is VHS. And if you guys don't know what VHS is, it's pretty much an anthology film franchise that does found footage. It's a movie that has been produced by Blade Disgusting and Radio Silence. What happens in this movie is that there's a lot of directors who are having their hand in these movies, and pretty much there's like a collection. It's pretty much a collective movie, like, it's a collective collaborative movie. So people like T. West, he's pretty much involved with this. I believe he directed or was involved with Your Next, I believe. He's one of the key people that I remember in this movie that actually did something. Other people that directed were Adam Wingard and David Bruckner. But what happens is that in these movies, we're pretty much given like a frame narrative, basically like a main narrative story. And what they do is kind of guide us through like different types of videos, VHS videos. Now, this is what we see basically in the first story. I mean, you get these group of guys who are, I guess, pornographers in some type of way possible. They film real life porn by, I guess, ambushing women and showing their tits on film and selling it to like other porn agencies online and shit like that. What happens is that they end up getting a job trying to find this VHS tape, and what they're going to do is that they're going to take this VHS tape and sell it to this guy who's paying them like a good amount of money. What happens when they get in the house, they see like this dead guy, and they see a pile of VHS tapes. So they don't know what tape that they have to actually retrieve, but they go through the tapes just to see if they could find it. Well, find the tape that they're supposed to take and give to this guy. Now, throughout these tapes, we see like different stories. The different stories, I mean, they have nothing to do with what's happening in the narrative at all, but there's some very interesting stories from like alien invasion to a serial killer or a secret lovers who kills their husband. Like I said, serial killers and just different things that happen in this film. Just different types of like creatures, ghosts, just all the normal shit that we see in horror movies. I do like the fact that VHS, I mean, it is kind of hard to talk about VHS because there's so much really put into this film. I mean, when I was coming up with this outline, it was really kind of hard to kind of buckle down and focus on anything specific because it's such a vast film within itself. One thing I could say, and which is what I try to stick to, is what did I like and what I didn't like. And the one thing I did like about VHS was definitely the first film. The first film really did set the tone about what this movie is about, and basically, it's just an anthology film to see all the different types of styles from different directors, editors, and writers and see what kind of stuff that they could produce, which is very good within itself. But sometimes some of the stories just got real. Some of the stories really just got real weird, absurd sometimes, and kind of like not really believable. One thing I can say is like some of the films that were good in the first one specifically were the second honeymoon movie. That one was really good. I mean, it was very slow paced, by the way. It was a slow paced film, and you're just given like this whole journey of this couple who's together. It could be kind of cringy at first or kind of just too lovey-dovey, and you're just like, it's disgusting. If you're one of those single people out there, I raise my hand. But you're just sitting there, you're just looking at this film, and you're just like, my God, how much lovey-dovey shit can we take in this film? I gotta say, though, they really do push the whole couples thing, getting all gushy, like real tough. Because they do the same thing in VHS Viral also, which is almost disgusting too. But yeah, you just see this couple, they're together, they're all babe this, babe that, and you're kind of getting babed out. At least I was. But what ends up happening is that the wife, she had a secret lover. Now, you guys may think like the secret lover was a guy, for those that haven't seen this movie before, but it wasn't. The secret lover was a girl. That shit was crazy. That shit was like really like left field for me. And that's another thing, like this film really does kind of like take your expectations away in many ways possible with something that is almost absurd, but it works in a way. So, yeah, the wife, her secret lover, ends up killing her husband, and they ended up running off together. Shit was fucking crazy. Oh, man. It was fucking crazy. Another film that is in this movie, well, another short film, I should say, that's in this movie that was also kind of like in that same realm It was called The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily When She Was Younger. And what this film focuses on is this character named Emily, who is played by Helen Rogers. She is in this relationship with this guy who I assume was her doctor. I don't know. It's so weird because, like, she mentions that something happened to her when she was a kid in this film. And she kind of mentions that he was off onto, like, college or some shit like that. And I'm just wondering, like, how many years apart that they are, you know, as far as age. But, I mean, that shit really doesn't matter. I mean, she's old enough. He's old enough. It's all legal. Who gives a fuck? You know. But in this film, James, who is the guy that she's seeing, they're in this long distance relationship together. In this long distance relationship, you know, you kind of get the idea, like, you know, they barely don't see each other at all. He's in another town from her, so the only way that they could really talk together is from Skype calls. So what happens to Emily is that she's being visited by some ghosts. What ends up happening is that all these strange phenomena and sightings are happening. But what ends up happening one night is that she tries to face off with the ghost. She goes online to James and tells him, like, hey, I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to confront them. I'm trying to see what's up. Like any brave, courageous person would do. I would not do that shit personally if ghosts existed. But then again, I do not believe in ghosts. But she ends up, like, trying to face her fears with this ghost, try and see what they want and what have you. So what ends up happening is that she has her laptop on. She's have James kind of like direct her because she doesn't want to look at the ghost directly. As soon as she finds the ghost, she gets knocked the fuck out. What happens next would very shocked anybody. But James, he goes and leaves from the call. He appears in her apartment. Now, I thought this motherfucker was like in another city, but he wasn't. He faked the whole thing. What we end up finding out is that Emily was being a carrier to what she thought were ghosts, but were really aliens. Yes. So James ends up cutting her open and taking out the alien child that was in her. And what it seems like from the little dialogue that we got from James and the aliens is that she's been a carrier more than once, actually. More than once. That's insane. But yeah, not only did they cut up the alien that was in her, but they also took out the little tracking device which they installed in her, which she ends up trying to kind of get out of her body, which was like planted in her arm. So what ends up happening to Emily is that the next morning, or I guess days after, she's online with James. She talks to him, tells him that, you know, she feels terrible because she doesn't know what happened to her. She has no recollection or memory of what happened to her that night. But what she was told was that she went insane and I guess ran into the streets or some shit like that. And this is all said by the doctor that James recommended to her. Now, what it sounds like, or what it is actually, is that James, that doctor, and the aliens, they're all conspiring together. It's very fucked up if you really think about it. But that's why you don't date motherfuckers over the internet only. You just don't know what the fuck you're getting into. Oh, man. But, yeah, it was definitely a very shocking twist to this movie because it's like you did not see this coming from what you thought was a ghost story turned into an alien movie. It was weird. It was definitely weird. Part 1 of VHS, or should I say, the first VHS movie, the first series of it, or first installment, whatever you guys want to call it, it definitely was an exciting movie that just keeps you guessing, really. And even to this day, I mean, I still look at it and still enjoy what I watch from it. Even the Siren movie. I think I talked about this before in an earlier podcast about this series, but I only talked about the first 2 VHS movies because those are the only ones that were available to view. The Siren movie was probably one of my favorite ones just because of how they used the found footage camera through spectacles. Kind of like Snapchat spectacles in a way. But this one you can actually record all you want. You know, you can record the whole night or what have you. It was very interesting how they did that story. And they did a lot of interesting storytelling, really, in my opinion, just using found footage. I would have to say, as far as like when it gets into the absurdity of the series, it gets to like maybe around VHS 2, which is like too damn early for a series to get into absurdity. And the reason why VHS 2 was definitely absurd to me was because everything just felt so forced as far as like the narrative story. Now, the narrative story was based on these 2 detectives who's trying to help this mom try and find her son who's in college. I guess the kid has been missing class and been missing for like a couple of weeks. So she wants to know where the fuck this kid is. What ends up happening is that they end up going to a house that he supposedly was at, which was pretty much his last location. What they find was basically the same setup, because I think this is the same house that the guys who were supposed to steal the VHS tapes, they were pretty much at this house. So they're pretty much kind of like at this house, but the house has changed a little bit because they made it more of a 1-story house instead of a 2-story house, because in the first one, it was more of a 2-story. And to me, I mean, I kind of figured that it was so weird that they went from changing the house. That was the first thing I noticed when I was watching VHS 2. The stories in VHS 2 they're a little bit more interesting. I wouldn't say more interesting, honestly. I mean, they're interesting enough. But the only problem with the movies in VHS 2 was that they were definitely straightforward. They were definitely straightforward movies. I mean, what you got is what you got. It was not anything that was a shocker any type way. There was no weird twist that happened in the end. It was just a straightforward movie. Like, all the short films were definitely straightforward. Were they interesting? Yeah, some of them were. Some of the interesting ones was Phase 1 off top. I mean, because that one dealt with like a story being told from a guy's robotic eye that was recording everything. A next one that was interesting was A Ride in the Park. That one was interesting also because that one was told through the story through a GoPro on a biker who ends up getting turned into an alien. And then Safe Haven was also probably like their weirdest one, but it was also a decent one also because this one was told through like media cameras because these people were reporters. And this is the one I kind of want to focus on a little bit as I am talking about it, just because of how weird it was. And I think this was kind of what maybe threw me into the whole, maybe I'm not really feeling this movie like I want to. But at the same time, it wasn't that bad. Because honestly, once we get to VHS viral, it gets a lot worse than that. Yeah, in Safe Haven, I mean, you're taking through the story of this guy named Malik and his wife, who is also part of the news crew. And what they're doing is kind of like documenting this Charlie Manson type family cult, what have you. The thing about the cult is that they have like this whole school, this whole like area, what have you, and they're just like any other cult. They believe in like this God and whatever, and as long as you commit suicide, you'll be taken to this divine heaven or what have you, whatever. The thing is, I mean, this movie does have the twist of what happens, but it does get absurd in a way. So what you find out in the middle of the movie is that Malik, his wife Lena, is pregnant by his friend Adam, who is pretty much, I think, he's one of the cameramen or one of the producers, I believe. He's pretty much Lena's baby daddy, which is fucked up because Adam and Malik are supposed to be friends. But while all this is happening, the cult ends up starting to have their little seance about their devil who is supposed to come for them, which is supposed to be their god or what have you. They all start committing mass suicide, which is crazy. So they all end up committing mass suicide. What ends up happening is that not only did they commit mass suicide, but they end up killing off some of the people in the crew that is videotaping this cult for their little news report. They end up killing like the cameraman. He gets killed by the leader of the group, which they just call as the father. They kill him with a box cutter, and it was gruesome. One thing I could say about these VHS movies, if you are into gore, this movie is very gory. If you're not into gore, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, bro. You might be freaked the fuck out seeing all that blood. But this movie is definitely gory in every way possible, and I love every minute of it. But what ends up happening is that after these people commit mass suicide, the only one that's left living is pretty much Adam. And he's pretty much trying to find his way out of this place. Next thing you know, the people who commit mass suicide, they come back as fucking zombies or demons or whatever the fuck they were. And they end up starting to attack Adam. Now, while all this is happening, Lena, who finds out that she is pregnant, and the reason why she said it was Adam's is because her and Malik haven't fucked in a while. So, pretty much the only one she's fucked has been Adam. So, mystery solved right there. What ends up happening is that Lena, who just finds out that she's pregnant, ends up giving birth right then and there. So, they take her to a room. Her stomach is already getting big. And what ends up happening is that coming out of her is this whole demon, like this demonized figure. I mean, he's half demon, half human. And he just comes out of her. And he ends up kind of like chasing down Adam and kind of like taking out parts of the cult that was in the building. So Adam, he escapes. He takes the car that he came in with the crew, ends up crashing the car. What ends up happening next is that the demon comes over and he calls him Daddy. So the fucking demon is pretty much Adam's kid. And the demon is pretty much protecting him. That shit was so crazy. I mean, I couldn't believe it. But yeah, that was one thing that was really like, wow, that was a turn of events. Like I said, it's absurd, but it is a twist. It's definitely a twist worth watching in a way. I mean, depending on how you feel about it. But definitely VHS 2, I mean, there was too much absurdities. There was too much forced video watching. But it got a lot worse by VHS 3, where they didn't really have much of a narrative story at all. And it just felt like we were kind of forced into some of these movies, and I just didn't really feel that idea too much. I mean, I just was like, okay, I like the ideas of the first and second one. I get that. But with this one, there's no real story at all. And what we're just taking to are just like really random movies at this point. The one thing I could say about VHS Viral that I did like was Bone Storm. And that one featured a bunch of teens who were in Mexico. And they ended up fighting a bunch of like demons and people in a cult also. But it was so fucking awesome. I mean, it was kind of like Zombieland mixed with like fucking, I don't know, The Evil Dead and shit. I mean, that's the best way I could describe it. But that was probably like the best one because it felt more like a VHS movie compared to like all the other movies that I was watching. I mean, they did not feel like a VHS type movie at all. It just felt like I was watching something totally random. Whereas Bone Storm gave me that feel of when I first watched VHS. And I think it was mainly because, you know, they were filming through GoPros and just the different like angles, shots, movement that was in the movie. It give you that sense of nostalgia a bit, but kind of like a more punk version of it. And it was definitely interesting. I mean, I really did like it. But as far as VHS Viral, it was definitely the worst movie ever. The narrative was very dumb as far as like how they were trying to like approach a story. And like I mentioned, like the transitions to the stories, they weren't even that good. What was even more ridiculous was the stories within the movie. The most ridiculous one was the parallel monsters. And I think what made that one ridiculous was the guys with the fucking dicks that they had as monsters and all that. I mean, their genitals were just like, it was a weird idea. I mean, I want to know who's the guy that came up with the idea that making monster-like genitals was a good idea. I did not understand that at all. That was the weirdest idea I thought was in this movie that I just feel like did not really accomplish anything at all. It was dumb. It was definitely dumb. But as far as like how it stands against movie in its caliber, I mean, if you're putting VHS against Rec, I mean, Rec destroys VHS by all means. I mean, Rec does get ridiculous by the last two movies. And for the simple fact that Rec doesn't stay as a found footage movie with those last two movies, VHS have that one beat as far as like consistency and trying to have a movie, you know, stay as what it is. I mean, it's true to form of what it is. But if you put VHS against the Blair Witch Project, I think the Blair Witch Project, the first movie, against like VHS's first movie, it's kind of toe to toe in every way possible. I mean, because they both have strong first movies and they both have very less than stellar sequels. I mean, I didn't watch Book of Shells because I wasn't interested in that shit. And I heard the remake was definitely terrible in every way possible. So I didn't even watch that shit. I don't know. I mean, I guess in a way, I mean, Blair Witch was kind of like a superior movie because it had a story that made you interested. And not to mention that everything was supposedly based on a true event, but it really wasn't. It was everything that was faked out just for ticket sales, you know, just to get people interested. I mean, because it's like, if this movie was a real movie about people in a forest missing and they get snuffed out, I mean, it's kind of like watching a snuff film, which is like illegal in every way possible. But I mean, I remember that time when Blair Witch was fooling everybody. I mean, it's so crazy to think about it, that was a real thing. I don't know. I feel like if we needed like a remake or something like that, or a reboot, because I could see them actually remaking VHS, but that's up to the people at Blade Disgusting whether they want to do that or not. Because I don't know if they really want to do it, because VHS Viral, I mean, it was horrendous. But, you know, after every horrendous movie, you know, there's always like a remake. That kind of like, hey, we're trying to restart the series and kind of make up for that boo-boo that we did. Oh, man. I mean, seriously. But, I don't know, man. I would like to see a remake come about, maybe to kind of fix up all the bullshit that they did, but we'll see. I mean, I feel like VHS could have kept it to that first movie, maybe the second movie, but change up some things, and it would have been perfect. I mean, we don't need VHS Viral, and to be honest, man, why did VHS Viral come out the way it did? I mean, they could have made it so much better. They could have did like the shit that they did in Unfriended, in a way, if you think about it. In Unfriended Dark Web, they really could have did what they did in that movie. But I don't know, they went the route of some bullshit that didn't make sense at all. I don't know, man. But that's my franchise talk about VHS. Like I said, I'm not going to rank it this week. Maybe once I get like my ranking system set up, maybe then we'll rank it. But if I have to really rank it right now, it will probably be the fourth movie. Well, technically third, because we're taking Child's Play out of the ranking system, because technically we haven't really talked about Chucky. But as far as like Saw, Friday the 13th, and VHS, I mean, VHS would probably be third on the list. So for all you people that were losing your minds about Friday the 13th being last, he's not last. So yeah, we're going to go ahead, take another break. And when I come back, I'm going to talk about all the movies that I've watched in August, and I'm going to give you guys my idea on what good movies you could watch come September, and what movies to kind of avoid at all cost. So yeah, like they say in Scream that you shouldn't say. I'll be right back.
What's your favorite scary movie?
And we are back, people. So throughout the month of August, I've been watching a lot of movies, like as you guys know. And as you guys know, September is coming up. So I wanted to reflect on some movies that I've watched through this month. I wanted to make a top 5 movie list of movies that I watched. Sad enough, the amount of movies that I have on here outweighs more than 5. And it was real hard to kind of make that list, because I could have easily made a top 5 worst movies list. Oh my god, these movies were horrible. But I'm gonna try and stay away from mentioning too much of like obvious movies, and I might just reflect a little bit on, you know, a little less obscure movies that maybe you guys haven't seen before. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into this. So first thing I want to talk about are good movies that I've watched. So the good movies that are on my list are The Girl Next Door, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1, 3, and 4, Mercy Black, Cannibal Holocaust, Rosemary's Baby, VHS, the first one, Revenge, Train to Busan, Ladies of the House, The Evil Dead, Climax, and Hatchet. Now, this list of movies, I mean, I gotta say, these movies are really good. Some more good than others. I mean, like The Girl Next Door. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys watched it before, but for those that haven't, this movie will have you tear up in every way possible, because it's based on like a real event about this girl who was being tortured by her caregiver. And in this movie, I mean, this girl named Sylvia, I forget the actress name, but she gets tortured in every way possible. I mean, the amount of torture goes light first from just like, you know, slight name calling and criticism, harsh criticism at that, to beatings and more criticism, to now more torturous beatings, starvation, rape, by the way, and literally burning, literally getting burned. And I'm not going to spoil too much of like everything that happens and, you know, the kind of torture that happens, but it definitely was a movie that just, it had you feeling some type of way. And it just made you feel like you wanted to beat the living shit out of all those characters, especially Ruth, man, who was the caregiver. I, for one, was like, damn, I want to beat the shit out of this fucking woman. I mean, the amount of torture that was happening, it was uncalled for. It was uncalled for. And just to have those little kids kind of get desensitized into like torturing this girl, it was upsetting in every way possible. I mean, I, for one, am just like, what the hell? This can't be real. But apparently this shit was real. Some of the shit that happened in this movie was real. I couldn't take it. I literally almost quit on that movie. And I never quit on a movie. You know what I'm saying? But I almost quit on this movie because of how torturous it was. And I just felt like what I was watching was just too terrible. Too terrible to what's happening to a kid. I don't know. I, for one, have a soft spot for like stuff like that. Like, I don't want to see any kids like beaten, tortured, starved to death or anything like that. You know? Because kids are the future, man. Kids are the future. And I do have a soft spot for that. I mean, I don't have kids of my own, but I do have a soft spot for, you know, kids, you know, and just like their well-being. You know, I don't like to see shit like that. It's not cool at all. You know, and it's sad to see like kids that deal with like abuse, especially at home. It's like sometimes kids deal with that shit at school, and to go home and deal with more shit like that, that's fucked up. It's ridiculous. But yeah, that was one movie that I really thought was good. I mean, I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but it was a very good movie. And I feel like everybody should watch this film. It would have you feeling some type of way. Another movie that I want to kind of talk about that's maybe like little known was Ladies of the House. Now, Ladies of the House is definitely a low budget film. I mean, it definitely plays out like it is. But what happens in this movie is that these girls are strippers. It's based on these strippers and what have you. And what happens is that these strippers, they like to take men home with them. And what they do with these men is that they end up killing these guys and using them for food. So we got like a little bit of Dusk Till Dawn mixed in with some Texas Chainsaw Massacre shit. Mixed in with, I can't think of like a all-female villain shit right now, but maybe just we'll keep it to Dusk Till Dawn mixed in with some fucking Texas Chainsaw shit. Well, they're not vampires, by the way, so let's clear that up. They're not vampires in any type of way. They're just cannibals, basically. So what happens is that one of the strippers, she gets tailed home. Like basically some dudes followed her home and they pretty much just was like trying to find themselves, trying to have a good time with her in any way possible. Now one of the characters, his name is Derek. He is pretty much the asshole of the group. And he pretty much is like trying to use money as a sense of doing whatever the fuck he wants. Now, the character Kai, who is a bit slow, he doesn't know any better. It's his birthday and he just wanted to find a way to have a good time because his good time is basically going to this restaurant and eating all this food and an apple pie. So anyway, they go to the stripper at her house. Derek managed to find a way to talk her up, get in her house, and they all end up drinking together. So what ends up happening is that they're drinking together. They end up playing a dare game. Derek wins the dare and he tells the stripper to spend 7 minutes in heaven with Kai. Now Kai, again, is not really all there. He's a bit slow. You know, he's not, I don't want to use the word slow because that's just, it does kind of seem a little disrespectful. He is not mentally matured like everyone else. That's a little bit better, right? All right. So yeah, he's not really mentally matured. He's not really all the way there like his brother Jacob and Derek are. So what ends up happening is that Derek tells Kai, take charge, do whatever you want. They go in the stripper's room. By the way, the stripper's name is Ginger, I believe. Why is that such a typical stripper name though, by the way? I feel like whenever there's a stripper involved, they're always named something like Ginger or some kind of Gilligan character or some shit like that. I don't know. Or their name is Harmony or Mahogany or some shit like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that knows shit like that. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm bugging. But anyway, moving on. Kai, he's in the room with Ginger and she's not feeling it at all. Because Kai is like this fat dude that she's not into. And he's trying to talk her up. Trying to talk about like, hey, I'll take you out on a date. Do this, do that. Blah, blah, blah. Then things get a little violent after that. You know, Kai ends up smacking the shit out of this girl. I'm just like, whoa. That turned around real fast. And they're just like duking it out a bit. So Kai is like, hey, I'm taking charge. I'm doing what I'm doing. It's crazy though. Because he's literally taking what Derek said to a whole new level. Now, what ends up happening is that Kai starts unbuckling his pants. And we all kind of know what's going to come up next. So what ends up happening is that Ginger managed to fight her way out of it. And she pulls a gun out on him. Derek and Jacob, they come in trying to protect Kai. She tells them what happened. They don't believe her, of course. Typical man thing to do. You know. That's probably like some women are saying. They say Kai is innocent, blah, blah, this and the other. And what ends up happening is that Derek, he pulls his gun out. Now, Derek, before he pulls his gun out in the scene, before they got in the house, Derek told Jacob that the gun was fake. The gun wasn't fake. And Derek ends up shooting Ginger. Ginger ends up shooting Kai. Kai ends up getting a shoulder wound while Ginger ends up getting shot in her stomach, which pretty much kills her, by the way. So she ends up dying. The main point that I want to make about this which is why I told this story, is that, yeah, the house is filled with women that are cannibals. And what ends up happening to Kai, he kind of does pay for what he's done. Now, I know Kai, he's supposed to be this innocent, he doesn't know any better type dude, but it's kind of like what I mentioned about when I was talking about Psycho, how Marion deserved to die. I actually thought that way about Kai also. I actually thought he deserved his death. Plain and simple as that. Yeah, Derek, he ended up dying also, but we all wanted Derek to die. The movie pushed the narrative of not wanting to see Kai get killed because of his mental stability. And it kind of hurt seeing Kai get killed. I'm not going to lie. I didn't want to see Kai get killed, but in the end, I knew he had to die for what he done. He kind of paid for his sin, basically. So yeah, the thing I could say is why this movie is on the good list. It stays consistent. It stays consistent on the story of what it is. It does keep you in a sense of anticipation and give you tense moments because there is kind of like a cat and mouse chase in this movie with the girls and the guys. The killings are definitely brutal. Once again, if you're into gore and seeing like very gory scenes, this movie actually has that for something that seemed like it was very low budget. It was definitely good seeing those scenes. And honestly, the story, it wasn't even that slow at all. The story actually moved. It had a good pace about it. To where like the movie was like about, I believe, an hour and 40 plus minutes. You really don't feel those minutes at all. Yeah, there's like little slow parts here and there, but at the end, it's not really a slow movie at all. It's definitely something that will keep you watching it. It was definitely good. Now, let's get into the bad. So, with the bad movie list, here are my bad movies that I've watched. # Follow Me. Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. My Bloody Valentine from 1981. The Haunting of Sharon Tate. Nightmare on Elm Streets 2 and 5. Cutthroat. And VHS Viral. Now, as you guys probably noticed, I didn't put VHS 2 on here just because it was too much of a middle ground movie, and I still don't know what to say, whether this movie is terrible or good. Because like I mentioned before, the movies inside of the frame narrative, they were good. The frame narrative was terrible, but sometimes the movies also that were in it, the short films, they were good, but they weren't that interesting to me. But first thing first, let's talk about # Follow Me. Now, # Follow Me kind of follows these girls from Britain who are in California, and they're out here just to have like this whole girls weekend or some type of shit and all that. And what ends up happening is that the girls end up having this stalker who is following them around. The stalker pretty much stole one of the girls' phone and has been kind of watching them the whole time and taping everything that they've been doing. So what ends up happening is that the killer, of course we all know, kills the girls. Well, actually, you guys probably didn't know. I don't know if you guys knew I was going to set that up, but in the end, the killer ends up killing all the girls. You would think for something that has an unhappy ending, I would be saying this movie was good, but actually this movie was really terrible in every way possible. And what made this movie terrible is for the simple fact, it was a found footage movie, but it just seemed like it was kind of like one of those found footage movies that weren't really that great. The story was kind of boring. It was definitely boring. I didn't really care for it that much. The acting wasn't that great also. I mean, it just didn't seem believable. And then some of the death scenes, I mean, they were definitely off screen, a lot of them. So, yeah, I mean, I couldn't really tell you where I was like really excited about this film. It's definitely forgettable also. It doesn't leave a lasting impression on you when you're watching this film. You know? So, I really had to put this in my worst or bad movies of the month that I've watched. You guys already know how much I feel about The Haunting of Sharon Tate. There's no need to go deeper into that. But another movie that I just literally could not finish or really just watch, actually, and it was just on to be on, but I actually mentally quit on it, was Cutthroat. And this movie was made in 2002. And the thing about this movie is that it's supposed to be more of like, I guess, a parody movie or an homage movie to movies around that time, like Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and stuff, and different types of slasher films just like it. Now, the thing is like, the movie is definitely, sadly enough, if I was really paying attention, predictable. And I mean, it was definitely an awful movie to watch. I mean, there was nothing about this movie worth watching about it. The death scenes were terrible. The acting was terrible also. Nothing was funny about it. I mean, there was maybe like a couple of funny scenes, but that was it. But after that, I mean, it was nothing really good about this movie at all. And I wasted a whole hour and 30 minutes watching this movie because it was just awful. I mean, if you guys ever come across Cutthroat, don't even watch it. It's not worth your time. The My Bloody Valentine movie, that one was terrible also. And it was kind of predictable about who the killer was. I mean, if you've seen the remake that came out in 2011, I believe, you will see that they kind of switched up who the killer was. But in this movie, it was supposed to be the officer. I can't remember his name at the moment, but he was the killer in this movie instead of the guy that actually left town. But yeah, that one was also awful within itself, because I just was like, what is going on in this movie? Like, have you guys ever watched a movie and just was like, what is going on? I don't understand what's going on. Why am I watching this? Yeah, I literally mentally disconnected from the movie. Maybe like in the first hour. And and because I kind of figured out who the killer was, I just felt like it was no use of really watching the movie anymore. And that's one thing kind of like is annoying sometimes, when you can figure out who the killer is before it gets to that point. Because at a point, you're just like, okay, I want to see who the killer is. Leave me alone with all this other bullshit. So, yeah, that is definitely on my list. And those are definitely all the movies I've watched this August. I mean, I might be leaving out some. But yeah, those are the movies I watch. I can't wait till September comes, because they got a host of new movies coming. As you guys know, also Hulu is running their last episode of Into the Dark series, but they will pick it back up in October with season 2. So that should be exciting to see. I'm thinking about what I should do as far as like when they do that last episode. Should I just revisit everything and just rank it all out? I'm thinking I should do that. But yeah, I'll give you guys my thoughts about that whole series. It's still in the works of what I'm trying to do with it. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead, take this last break, and we're gonna go into the outro.
Wendy, stay away! Darling, light of my life. I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. I'm gonna bash them right the fuck in.
Alright guys, so we are here, we are at the outro. As you guys know, we always have a movie of the week and your meme of the week. So let's start with the movie of the week. The movie of the week that I want to give you guys, and it's off the good and bad list. The movie I will probably want to advise you guys to watch is, and I really didn't write this down, but I'm just suggesting it to you guys, by the way. It's Climax. I would definitely advise you guys to watch Climax. Again, that's a Gaspar Noé movie. If you guys have Amazon Prime, it just made it to Prime. It's crazy because I was just on Amazon Prime to look for a movie to watch, and usually I just go to my Shudder channel to watch a movie there because that is like the horror movie shit and all that and what have you. But this time I was like, you know what? Let me get off of Shudder and try and see if there is a movie that I could check out and kind of like, you know, watch it, what have you. And this time when I got on there, I actually accidentally found this. I didn't even know Climax was even making it to Amazon. But it made its way to Amazon, and I was excited to see this. If you guys follow me on Instagram, I actually post like what movies I am watching at the moment, and I try and like give you guys a hint about what I'm watching at the moment. So if you guys want to watch it, I mean, you guys can. But yeah, I would advise you guys to watch Climax. That one is a good one. For the meme of the week, I got one dealing with Jason. And this one is actually very funny. This one is Jason versus Aquaman. So in the meme, it starts off with Jason coming out of the water, and he says, "Yo, who the fuck is swimming in my lake?" All you see is Aquaman saying, "Problem?" And Jason is like, "LOL, nah homie, we good, do you?" Oh man, I actually thought that was really funny to see, but it just reminds me also of how bad Freddy vs. Jason was. And yeah, I know I said Freddy vs. Jason was kind of underrated, but one thing I did notice that shouldn't have happened in this movie is that Jason was afraid of water. I don't know how, because he looks more at home in water in all the Friday the 13th movies. Each time he come out of that motherfucker. So I don't know how they decided to make this whole plan of Jason being afraid of water. I don't know, maybe when I saw this movie, I don't know, I can't really say I didn't see all the Friday the 13th movies, because I did see all those movies. Maybe because I just didn't remember that he was coming out of water, you know, that whole, oh, he's afraid of water shit really just stuck with me. But yeah, it made no sense that they made him afraid of water. That was a dumb storyline within itself, because he's not afraid of it at all. He may be drowned, but he wasn't like staying afraid of that shit. Nah. But other than that, I mean, that's the show for today, you guys. As you guys know, you guys can follow me on my social medias, Instagram, Twitter, where I am at Walterdoom1 on Twitter, Walterdoom on Instagram. If you guys like the show, leave a like, subscribe, comment, do whatever, share. Other than that, I am out for the week. I'll be back next week with another episode, trying to keep this shit consistent, trying to have you guys love this shit. But other than that, it's your boy Walterdoom signing out for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. This is America. Just don't let them catch you slipping now. Peace.